HBO deal. Good company, they put on good cards, but I don't know where Floyd's head is at with that company.
What's Don gonna do with that Golden Boy? Is he gonna make the deal?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. With Golden Boy, they're saying that they can make the fight. They have the negotiations. For whatever reason, Bob Arum's Top Rank and Golden Boy have not been able to seal a deal. Now, I don't know if that's due to Floyd just not wanting to fight this year because of certain tax restrictions, and which I guess is understandable, or his uncle's trial, but whatever.
Tax? What do you mean? The tax? So this is coming down to money.
Yeah, I mean, who knows if it's whatever it's coming down to.
Well, I mean, he is Floyd Money Mayweather.
Right.
Am I free
exactly?
Am I free to assume that he cares more about money than the sport?
Right, and I mean, it is prize fighting, so I mean, you can't really argue with the guy for wanting to make the most money that he can.
No.
My argument with Floyd has never been the fact that he's wanted to make the most money that he can because he's great at that. My argument is made that when Floyd says he's better than Sugar Ray Robinson, you're not. Sugar Ray Robinson was 90-1. He had lost one fight, and his first 90 fights, and beat Jake LaMotta 4 other times. Fought, the rematch was just weeks. I'm getting sidetracked here, but either way, my whole problem with Floyd is saying he's the greatest boxer ever. I don't know if it's part of the promotion or whatever. I mean, he's just not. So no matter what anybody thinks. When we're thinking about Don King, my thing that I like about Don King, there are many things that you can't like about Don King, but Don King, he seals a deal. Don King is a finisher. He'll get a fight, and he'll close it up. He had Trinidad De La Hoya made he's made some of the biggest fights of all time. And Bob Arum's an old schooler. Him and Don King know this boxing business better than anybody out there. I will dare anybody out there who's a promoter say they know the boxing business better than Bob Arum or Don King. I'm not saying that they don't manipulate it, but they know it, and they will get a deal. And if Floyd Mayweather does sign with Don King, that fight's going to happen. And, I'll tell you what, even if Margarito, which I don't think he's going to do, but I think he could, say Margarito knocks out Pacquiao, Don King and Bob Arum will find a way to still make Pacquiao Mayweather in 2011, and it'll still be the biggest fight ever.
You know why I like Don King? For the same reason that I like James Toney in the UFC. James Toney, Don King, they have a history. James Toney, clearly several times publicly, said, Don King, kiss my ass. Don
right.
King, and that. And he's not the only one. I like it because it's nostalgic.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that I think that the fight fan subconsciously may not realize. That's what the fight fan likes about Dana White.
Right.
They like seeing that Don King, Bob Arum personality up there, just talking shit, talking garbage, making you mad, almost putting them into the equation of the fight, which is that's all what goes into matchmaking.
Right.
Can you imagine Pacquiao Mayweather with all the arguments, the blood testing, and stylistically, put Bob Arum versus Don King with their historic rivalry. Can you imagine Don King talking about that fight leading up to it? Who knows where that's going to go?
Oh,
and
my God.
I almost get enjoyment out of just laughing at Oscar De La Hoya's company just bitter in a corner that they couldn't make this fight because they're trying to control boxing now.
Right, and you're thinking Don King coming in, swinging some elbows,
right.
some old connections.
Yeah, exactly.
Just making it happen, and it's some sort of, you get the sense of, maybe some sort of desperation on Floyd and on Don King's part. Who knows? But let's for a moment just assume.
Not to interrupt here, though, but I always laugh when people take a moral high ground against things that Don King or Bob Arum have done in boxing. And let's really get to it. You're watching two guys punch each other in the face, potentially to the death, for money. And I mean, for the people that can be sitting at home and saying that this or that Bob Arum or Don King do. I mean, we're all watching it for entertainment, and, it's a business. And name me one corporate business in America that doesn't have some sort of scumminess to it.
Right. I mean, the line is drawn in boxing. The line gets crossed.
It gets drawn. It gets drawn to cross.
It gets drawn again.
That's why we like the whole quote. I was lying yesterday. Today I'm telling the truth.
Right.
I mean, who knows? That's what we like. That's what we're talking about here. And I mean, your sports fan will say we want to see the fights. We want to see Floyd and Pacquiao. A lot of times, no, you don't. You want to see the circus, and that's why James Toney, Randy Couture is going to be so great because you want to see the circus. You want to see something ridiculous, And that's what we love about the fight game, because it's one of the only sports where it is the most physical. I'll tell you what, the fight game, boxing, UFC, MMA, it's the most physically demanding sport there is. Football's obviously physically demanding, as are other sports, but there's no other sport that's as physically demanding and as circus-like in entertainment that just brings it all together.
Yeah, because there's only a couple people who can jump in the ring and do what the UFC fighters do and do what the boxers do.
Yeah.
But there is a large amount of people who can jump in the ring and do like what Dog King do and do what Bob Arum do.
And let me defend these combat sports a little bit more here, just before we go. When the argument is made that the best fighters aren't fighting, they're playing football, they're playing baseball or basketball. I'm going to say this: the best fighters are still fighting. There are a lot of football players that weigh 175 pounds that couldn't touch Chad Dawson. They couldn't touch George St. Pierre.
Right.
They couldn't touch Anderson Silva. There are a lot of guys 200 plus pounds in the NFL that could not stand in the same room as a Klitschko and even a Brock Lesnar, or even a Shane Carwin. So let's forget this whole idea that the best aren't fighting. The best are fighting.
The best are fighting because they have the heart.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're going to end with this installment, is that the best are fighting. And I love the NFL. I love Major League Baseball. I love the NHL and basketball. I love all that stuff, but nothing can compare to a one-on-one combatant. I'm going to take your will. I'm going to look you in the eyes, and I'm going to beat you physically, mercifully, and I'm going to be the best that there is at what we do. There's nothing that touches that.
That's all we have for you this week. You've been listening to The Bruiser. I'm Baron Matthews. That's Hans Olsen. See you next Friday.